All right, we should be good to go. Let me just pull it. What I can do.
I can just wing something to the effect of it too if you can't find it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Pat uses for a script, but typically we have it's the open meeting law. Let me send over a link to you, Dirk. Or
Well, while we're doing that, if the CEDC wants to open their meeting, they can do that.
Sure, we can do that. You want to do the honors, Bill?
Sure. The CEDC, having a quorum present, is opening their meeting jointly with planning board at 6:33.
I'll just get some going. Yeah, we're opening a planning board meeting, the CEDC. Members in attendance are myself, Michael McDonald, the vice chairman. Raymond Ajemian and Steve Geller. I believe we have a few absences tonight, and Chairman Patrick Driscoll will be in later. Pursuant to the governor's orders, the governor's open meeting act, this meeting will be held virtually. Every effort will be made to allow members of the public to have input. And the meeting will be recorded and posted at a later date in the town's website. So I believe our first item is zoning ordinance DFY 23002 to amend section 11 definitions for expanded living space in in-law living areas from 600 square feet to 800 square feet.
yeah, I'm pulling up the legal notice as well, Michael. If you could read that into the record.
Sure. Just do you mind zooming that in? I'm on a cell phone.
Oh, sure, of course.
Perfect. Yep. So pursuant to section MGL chapter 40A rather, section 5, notice is hereby given that the Community and Economic Development Committee and Planning Board will hold a joint public hearing on Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022, beginning at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom link to receive public input on proposed ordinance DFY 23-002, amend section 11 definitions, expanded living space, in-law living area, which seeks to amend section 11 by changing the definition of the expanded living space to increase the square footage to 800 square feet. The entire proposed ordinance may be viewed on the town's website or in the town manager's office in the Academy building during business hours.
And Councilor Moore is the sponsor of the ordinance and is in the meeting if he wants to make a presentation or anybody of the committees have questions.
Yeah, thank you. If it's allowed, I can maybe just give some introduction to this, if that helps. Great. So just as background, multiple families in Bridgewater approached me for help increasing the allowed size of the in-law apartment from 600 square feet to 800 square feet. And the goal of that was really just to support better multi-generational living. And as part of these, they all approached me with very personal stories, right, about health challenges, financial challenges, family bonds. I think some were actually mobility issues and just, stories about personal dignity. And then they also, in some ways, I think were stories about the housing crisis, right? And the very real fact that multi-generational living may be the best, or in some cases, the only option available to families. And so they had concerns that the small 600 square foot limit was difficult for a couple of reasons. I won't get into all of them, but maybe to highlight a few, there was situations where there were two sets of in-laws and just sort of accommodating that. Situations where there were mobility issues and the floor plans potentially needed to be bigger to support accessibility. And then in some, there were even discussions about the benefits of like personal enrichment areas or places to sort of work on hobbies that are separate from the main family area. And so they had asked for this slightly larger square foot limit of 800 square feet to support that. And maybe just to put that in perspective, the average, I think Dunkin' Donuts is somewhere around 1,200 to 2,600 square feet. So if you think about sort of that small coffee shop with a couple of tables, right, that's 2 or maybe 3 times the size the space that we're allowing for in-law living. So for me, I'm trying to support the families that have asked for this and want to stay together and support each other as they age, and ask for your help thinking through and hopefully your support in amending the zoning to support helping these families stay together. Thank you.
Is this a
Okay,
format for the planning board?
I'm sorry, say that again,
Is
Councilor
it a
Wood?
hearing? Is it a
It's a
hearing?
This is
It's
a public
hearing-
hearing.
A public hearing for the planning board and the CEDC, yes. So you both can ask Council more questions or open up to the public, however you want to handle it.
I'll just make a comment. I'll start out. 35, 37 years ago, we added on to our house for my mother. We added 600 square feet, not necessarily because of the ordinance, because of the lot size and the boundaries in terms of property lines and so forth, and it worked out well. I can understand increasing it. I have no problem going to 800 square feet at all. My only question is why 800? Why was 800 picked versus say 1,000 or whatever?
Yeah, I did do a little bit of research. I think I saw the max I saw, I think, was actually 1,200. 800 was actually selected. That was the number that a couple of different families had approached me with. So they had asked for my support for the 800. That was primarily the reason. Certainly, I think larger could be considered as well.
800 is fine with me. I'll support this.
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, I look at Ray, I completely support this, and I'd also be totally happy going to 1,000. I did a little research on it, from what I could find. Yeah, we're on the very bottom end of what's usually allowed currently. 700 to 1,200 seems to be kind of the average range. So yeah, it's got my full support, and I'd go larger even myself.
Yeah, I'll be supporting this also. Eric, question for you though. So some of the concerns I had heard are that by increasing it, it makes it easier to make it an illegal rental after the in-law use is used. But my thought is at 600 or 500 or whatever the range is, you're still going to have that risk. So do you have any thoughts on that? Because I think that I don't think there's any increased risk at 800 than there was at 600.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. I had also heard that feedback and did some research. I wasn't able to find any evidence that the size changes that behavior. And similar to what you just mentioned, I think if someone is looking to do this for that reason, they'll do it with 600. They'll likely do it with 800 as well.
Just on that point, it strikes me that the existing additional restriction reading that unrestricted passage must be maintained on each floor level between units. I think that would be a substantial prohibition. I think that's going to ensure, I think, that we should be able to not anticipate problems with illegal apartments.
That's a great point. Thank you.
Well, I
Any
feel
other
very,
questions or comments on the plan? Oops, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Chase.
thank you. I personally, I feel very comfortable with the 800 square foot figure. I don't know if there was ever any logical rationale for the 600 square foot. It seems rather arbitrary to me, but nonetheless, to me, it's not at all an unreasonable increase to move from 600 to 800 for this purpose.
I would agree with Mr. Chase. I did a 600 for my mother-in-law, and it was just enough space for one bedroom, one bath, one living area, and a kitchen area. So the 200 would add another bedroom to it, which I think is fine. So I'm also in support of moving up to 800 versus the 6. And I do like that we are going to keep getting into it on all levels. because I did have to cut through in my basement through my foundation and on my first floor. So.
So it is a public hearing, so you just want to make sure if there's anybody in the public that has any comments.
Yep, so who opens it up? So I was.
Either one of you can.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
All
right.
it doesn't matter. Either one of the
Let's hear some
two.
public
Okay.
comments.
Yeah.
Just raise your hand or note in the chat if you'd like to speak. I'm not seeing anybody.
Not seeing anyone either.
Looks
Okay,
like you
so
have
is
no
this
public
more of a recommendation process or like what's the actual?
Yes. So the planning board has to vote to make a recommendation to the council and CEDC can as well. And then you have to close the hearing.
Okay, I mean, I don't think we get too much disagreement on this one. So somebody wants to make a motion for a recommendation to the council.
I'll make the motion to change the square footage for in-law apartments from 600 to 800 square feet.
So we have a second.
I'll second
Oh,
it.
sorry, Shane.
I'm sorry. I just think that we could, not to comment on the motion, but I think we should, it's either a recommending favorably or unfavorably.
Okay, I'll make the motion to favorably recommend the motion to increase the square footage of in-law apartments from 600 to 800 square feet.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Jemian,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
All right, Fred, you want to make a similar motion?
I would be happy to. I'll make a motion in favor of recommending approval of this proposed ordinance to the town council.
Second that. Any discussion?
No,
Hearing none. Fred, how do you vote?
I vote in favor. Vote
I
aye.
vote in favor. 2-0.
And then you just have to close the public
So,
hearing.
all right, so we'll, not hearing any other comments, we'll close the meeting for hearing for the CEDC committee.
We'll vote on that.
Oh, yeah, I guess it would be a vote. Is there a motion to close it? Is that the proper form?
I would
Yes.
make that motion.
All right, I'll second that. How do you vote?
I vote aye.
I vote aye, 2-0 in favor of closing the hearing.
All right, on the planning board side, do we have a motion to do the same?
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Jemian,
Yes,
and I'm a yes.
that was the best public hearing we've had.
We've had a long time.
Put that down as the date, and time. We have to remember this.
Well, who's
Well,
missing from the meeting?
We can't tell Pat.
That's right.
We'll watch it. He'll watch it though.
A
Any
little
other
shaky on
business?
my end, but
Any other business for CC?
No, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Go home.
Motion to adjourn. I second the motion.
I have a 7 o'clock meeting, Ray. I gotta go be treasurer at the other Lions Club meeting. All right, Fred, you're in favor of adjournment?
Yes, I vote aye.
I am too. The CTC committee is adjourned. Thank you very much. See you later.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening.
all right, so moving on to other planning board business, I believe we have another public hearing for 210 Broad Street. Did they ask for another continuance on this?
They certainly did. I talked to the applicant, actually the engineer, Eric Diaz, today, because we've gotten a fair amount of continuances to the next meeting with no avail of new information. So I did ask if the applicant would want to actually continue to the December 7th meeting. However, they believe that for the November 16th meeting, that they're confident that they're going to have something or some sort of plans and updates for the board for that meeting. So they've requested for that continuance to November 16th at 6:30 via Zoom.
Okay.
Do we have anything on the docket right now for that date?
We have the continuation from Norland Park, Grange Park to that date, as well as, I believe, actually probably this item. Other than that, I believe those are the two items, unless something gets continued from today as well.
The only
Okay,
reason,
do we have
the only reason
sorry.
I ask is because it's a request from them to move to that date, but it's only a request. I mean, if the board feels that they're not gonna be ready because they keep pushing it off and pushing it off, pushing it off, what do we, let's say, we're just gonna put you off to the 7th and give them more time.
Yeah, I guess it's up to the board's kind of feeling. I think that,
I'm fine. I mean, I don't want to prolong it, but I mean, this is
yeah,
something-
I'm just gonna go based on the
that-
applicant's request. I can't, put words in their mouth, but they did request it to the next available public hearing, based on the email that I received.
It's fine.
I'm
Yeah, I
okay.
mean,
with the
I
request,
wouldn't mind pushing it off to December either, but I mean, it's kind of, it's not like these continuances take a long time, so they request another one. It's not exactly the end of the world either. Well, they should be kind of getting this ball rolling at some point. So,
So I was saying, I'm okay with the request also, but I also agree with Steve that if the request is to a meeting that we have a number of issues on the docket, then we should not abide by it. But this is okay.
all right, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to continue the 210 Broad Street to what, the 16th or whatever it is.
It'd be, yes, 2 weeks from now, so November 16th.
Yeah.
And do we have a second for that?
Second,
All righty, Mr. Jimmy,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, so moving on, we have some board business. The Oldfield Estates bond release request. I believe Attorney Castanetti is here tonight. Is that correct?
Yes,
All right. So let me, just trying to remember exactly what happened last meeting with this. Did we even act on this, or do we?
No, we've been waiting for Attorney Castanetti to attend this meeting because there was a request back in August in regards to some bonds monies being returned. So we did send the information over to our town attorney, town engineer, Greg Tanzi, and we've been kind of, I guess, going back and forth on this matter. And I know at the previous meetings, the board would like Mr. Castanetti to have be in attendance for this request, as well as have the ability to, ask some questions regarding some of the numbers and as well as work that has been completed for this matter. We did receive some information as recent as today that I forwarded over to the board, which has some new information that was different than what was previously produced on the memo. So I'm not going to put any pressure on the board to make any decision making tonight, as we do have new information before us that we received today and the board has today. So I would, I think it's okay for Mr. Castanetti to just, present the project and present his reasoning, and then we kind of go from there.
Could I just interject a second, Mr. McDonald? Could we?
Oh, yes.
Before we even get to Mr. Castanetti, could somebody just summarize what has transpired so far, just so we're all update in terms of what we're talking about?
Sure. Like I said, we received a request for a bond or surety release from Mr. Castanetti, a certain amount. I believe it's maybe around 300,000-400,000 based on work that he believes has been completed, which we sent over to the town engineer, and the town engineer went to the site, analyzed the request, as well as taken some pictures of what has been completed, and has produced a number that he has felt that can be released based on the work that has been completed up to DPW standards. So there has been additional work that has been completed in response to Mr. Tanzi's memorandum that was originally presented to the board in, I believe, in October. So there is potential, and there has been an update to the numbers in surety request release from engineer Greg Tansey as recent as today. If that summarizes some things.
Mr. Tansey, would you say that the information you received today would significantly alter the statement before us? The bond estimate, rather?
No, it didn't significantly alter it. They added, they performed some work where I reduced the amount of surety required, but the water department also reported in, and that they require some more maintenance work on some valves, Watergate valves. I also heard from the developer's contractor. He also responded to my October letter, and I forwarded that to Shane, and I'm sure he forwarded it to you. But they are presenting to do certain amount of work that needs to be done. So with that, the bond amount didn't really vary a whole lot. Like I said, some work items were removed from it, and then some work items were added to it.
Okay, so in your opinion, the estimate I have in front of me here tonight is accurate enough to act on tonight?
Yes.
If we so chose.
If the board so chose to do so.
Okay, excellent, thank you. If nobody else has questions for Mr. Tandy, we can move on to Attorney Castanedi.
Yes, so based upon the amount of funds that you're holding versus the amount of work, the punch list items remaining to be completed, we're asking in accordance with Chapter 41, Section 81U, that the bond be properly reduced to reflect the value of the work that remains to be done. It's pretty much that simple.
Okay, and you've, I'm assuming, received Mr. Tansy's estimate?
Well, I don't know if I received what you have. I didn't receive anything from Mr. Tansey today, so I'm not sure. What he previously had was 100,125
To be
Yes.
held.
in his September letter, correct?
Okay, yeah, it's 108,512 on this most recent one I have.
Yeah, as like I said previously, we've received in this information as of today in the afternoon, as well as Mr. Castanetti's contractor's response letter, which I actually just forwarded over to the board. I did forward over the numbers from Mr. Tansey once I received them, but I can understand if the board hasn't absorbed some of the information since the past memo.
Okay, so Attorney Castanedi, you would have no issue with, or at least, roughly the amount listed there. I believe it's amount to be refunded $451,097.50. Is that a equitable amount? Sorry, I
Yes,
haven't done a bond reduction before, so. All right, I don't have any further questions. Sounds like town and developer are satisfied here. I don't know if
Wait a
anybody
minute.
else has anything.
Yeah, I just have a question. I'm a little confused here. Is there a difference between what Mr. Tansey is recommending and what Mr. Castanetti is saying he should get?
Well, we haven't even had that discussion.
Well, I think that's kind of important.
Sure is.
Well, I believe that's what I was asking Attorney Castanedi just previously.
that's what
I don't believe there's a, yeah, I
That's
don't
what I-
believe there's any conflict.
no, that's what I thought you asked, and that's what I thought I answered. Exactly.
Just again, Mr. Tansey, through you to the chair. What are you recommending in terms of release, the amount?
Well, what the amount of money that's being held right now is approximately $559,000. There's approximately $108,000 worth of work that remains to be done. Now, this does not include the walking paths and conveyance of open space to certain trusts, because we weren't allowed to bond that amount of money. Just infrastructure products. So
I'm saying you don't let them keep saying.
Excuse me.
I guess my concern is, why are we discussing this when it should simply be Mr. Tanzi's recommendation as to how much should be released? And if there's a dispute about it, then that should be worked out between Mr. Castanetti and Mr. Tanzi. Why? I don't quite understand what we're doing here.
Well,
There is no dispute. There's no conflict. Mr. Castanetti agrees with Mr. Tanzi's figure. Now I'm
What
confused.
you have to do
he
is
doesn't have the figure.
you have to endorse Mr. Tanzi's recommendation. It's your decision to make. Mr. Tanzi is presenting his information, his recommendation. You have to decide if you agree with that.
Right. The bond reduction, it was set by the board based on the surety to be held for Oldfields Road for the original subdivision, based on the work that is expected to be completed. And we've provided some updates, and we provided a memorandum to the board as early as October, which did present information, and Mr. Castanetti did receive the memo as well with Greg's numbers at the time. So as of recently as of today, Mr. Tanzi has updated his numbers based on some work that Mr. Castanetti has done, which has not been seen by Mr. Castanetti, but has been seen by the board, as well as information from Mr. Castanetti's contractor stating a response to Mr. Tanzi's memo that has been forwarded to the board.
No, I get all that. What my confusion is, I verbally read Attorney Castanetti
It's 7 o'clock.
the updated amounts from Mr. Tanzi. Attorney Castanetti indicated that he had no issue with those figures. So I don't know what conflict. Maybe I'm misinterpreting you, Ray. I don't understand where
no.
you think there's a conflict.
No, I totally agree, Mr. McConnell. I mean, if Mr. Tanzi wants to give a certain figure and he's comfortable with it based on all the information that he has and all his tests, then I'm comfortable going with it. That's all.
Yeah, same. I mean, that sounds like everyone's cozy with this. So anything from you, Mr. Geller?
No, I get it. I'm just waiting for the figures to be thrown out there.
Do you want me to bring up the figures on the screen?
Yeah, so I mean, the original one was 559,000. He's looking to reduce it to 100 to what, 108.52. So we're looking to give him a refund of what, 450 some odd $1,000.
Yeah,
Correct. So Mr. Castanetti's original request was that the amount of $559,610 was to be reduced by $478,410, where the board would be holding $81,200. The request, based on Greg's numbers and has received by the board, is that the current amount that would be refunded to the developer would be $451,097.57, which would be a difference of about $22,000 from what was requested.
Right, and what I heard is Mr. Castanetti is okay with Mr. Tanzi's numbers.
That's correct.
So I don't see where the confusion lies anymore as far as, just reducing the bond and refunding the money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting on a motion at this point myself.
Well, we
Good to
do
go
have,
with this.
I think there's
think
someone with someone with their hand raised in the audience.
Oh,
If you would like to acknowledge them,
are we allowed to take public comment on bond releases?
you can do whatever you'd like.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Hi, my name is Eileen Barron. I'm here with my husband. We're residents of Old Field Preserve and have talked to Shane as well as Greg Tansey about some of the issues here. And I just wanted to kind of make a brief statement that we still feel that there are several outstanding issues that are checked off on this punch list, including our mailbox area, our sidewalk edging that has not been redone. The walking trails is a huge issue. In addition to trees that are dead that need to be replaced and several missing trees that have not been planted. Now, to that point, I don't know, Greg Tansey obviously knows better what that amounts up to money-wise, but we just wanted to speak and make a brief statement saying that we definitely object to monies being given back that would be needed to complete these areas of concern that have been promised to not only the homeowners here, but the town of Bridgewater as well. And I appreciate you letting me take a moment to speak.
Of course. Yeah, I'm looking at the itemized items. I do see the trees are still on there, trees and plantings for the amount of about $18,000. I'm seeing lighting at the mailboxes for about $6,000. I'm sorry, I can't remember all the issues you mentioned. I remember sidewalk curbing, that one.
Yes, there's some sidewalk damage from plows as well as the reseeding of people's lawns that were ripped up twice when the sidewalks were put in. One time incorrectly and then redone a second time. That just
Reseeding is on there. That is covered.
within that one. And the walking trails, which is a huge thing that we feel are not even evident, other than there are signs saying that there are walking trails.
I believe I heard earlier that walking trails and open space areas are not covered under a bond. The bond, I'm not sure why.
No,
that's-
I would say, I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
No, it would be something that we would have to, I would guess, discuss, I guess separately, because there are some outstanding issues in terms of the open space parcels that we can kind of, I guess, discuss as part of this matter. You know, I've had conversations with Wildlands Trust in terms of some outstanding issues, and I know just based on my short time here, kind of doing some research on this project, there are some elements of the decision that I think that we faltered on, whether it be as a board, or as myself as a town planner, in terms of some requirements for things prior to or after issuance of a 42nd building permit. So it's something that we can have a continuous conversation on, but in terms of the road bond information that Mr. Tansey has stated, you know, he has indicated that the work and the monies requested has been completed. So the board can decide if they want to take a vote at this point, or at some point, you know, dive into some of the newer information and vote at a future meeting.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Greg, the list of items that needed to be fixed, has that been taken into account in your estimate?
When you, excuse me, the list that I have produced is just with the roadway infrastructure. I did not include the walking trails. I did note the walking trails. I did take some pictures of the trails. There are a number of trees that have fallen over these trails, making them impassable. There was another tree that was suspended above, that fell over, and it was suspended above the trail. Basically, it was what's called a widow maker. If it falls on somebody, you know, there's an issue of safety there, in my opinion. I was told in a meeting that we can't bond for these maintenance of the trails. I wasn't sure why, but that's so I took those off the list for withholding funds. But you know, the planning board can do what it wishes if it feels that needs surety for doing work that's outside the scope of roadway infrastructure. See,
Right, what about the things that was just listed? I mean, in terms of curbing and seating, things like that, is that part of your list?
it is, yes. They paved the mailbox area. They cleaned up the detention basin behind the mailbox. They restored a portion of the sidewalk that's in there. But there are also some issues where the Cape Cod berm was damaged due to plowing operations, and those berms need to be restored, and money is withheld to ensure that that work gets done. And for lighting in the mailbox, the lighting hasn't been put in yet, so I accounted for that as well, to ensure that there's funding to get that, to make sure that that work is completed.
As an aside, who is responsible for the trails? Does anybody know?
We are. We are.
You are.
Yes, they were cut in the spring, and they're scheduled to be recut next week.
Okay.
With all due
I'm
respect,
They were not cut in the spring. I'd
all
like
right.
to see a record of that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can't just interrupt. I'm sorry.
They were cut in the spring.
I'm sorry. I just want to have this be focused on the roadway matter. I understand there is some, issues at hand. But I just want to kind of ask a question to Mr. Cassidy, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, of course.
Lee, do you have any indication of when that lighting would be completed for that mail area?
Yeah, the wiring is done. The base, the concrete bases, the sonotube bases were installed 2 weeks ago, and our electrician has indicated that the lights will be installed late this week or early next week.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I guess my thoughts are, I'm sure there's still outstanding issues with the project. What if the bond here is focused specifically on roadway issues? I mean, I
Well,
guess it's a question of scope, if the other issues have to be accounted in with that, or.
Just based on scope, I would say that Mr. Castanetti is entitled to monies that, based on work that he has completed, as indicated by town engineer. There are certain items and occurrences and requirements that are beyond the scope of this road bond that still need to be completed or updated or touched up, that we can happily have a conversation about Mr. Castanetti about. However, we did receive information from Mr. Tanzi, and I believe Mr. Tanzi has also, read the response letter received by Mr. Castanetti's contractor about work and timing to be done. So we can additionally add that document to the record if the board feels that we can hold Mr. Castanetti accountable for some of those items and timelines on actions on this for ultimately when he decides to request the rest of the monies or street acceptance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning with this too. I mean, because we are still going to be holding a significant amount of money, almost $110,000.
Sure.
Any other thoughts from the board?
And I believe in this case, with a board of 3 or a quorum of 3, we would need 3 members to be come into agreement for this matter.
Yeah, I mean, I personally am comfortable releasing the amount put forth by Mr. Tanzi.
And what,
There has been a suggestion to wait to the next meeting. Comfortable with that as well, to in case any new information comes up. But I go either way.
yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Tanzi, are you comfortable? What is the actual figure you're recommending to be released?
The actual figure was $451,097.50.
Wait a minute, 451,
757,
451 and what?
097.57.
Okay,
0.50.
0.50.
Yes.
okay, and you're comfortable with that amount, releasing that amount, and that you have enough left over to complete whatever needs to be done in this development, correct?
As far as the DPW work is concerned,
Okay,
within the scope of this bonding.
okay, then I'll make the motion to release $451,097.50 based on Mr. Tanzi's recommendation.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that for discussion. So I think I'm fine with that as long as Mr. Tansey is okay with it, but I'd like to see that letter added. So Mr. Gassinetti's letter of dates when things are going to be complete get added to this. So we have a record of it. So when it comes back, like you suggested, Mr. O'Brien, for any other funds returned to him.
Yeah, let me just make sure. So, yeah, it's a response from, well, it's just kind of a red line version of the email sent over to Pat from
Yep.
Greg Tansey. So I do have a copy, but we can indicate that and I can add it as part of the record.
Please.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just to be clear, just so that the board understands that the expenses of recutting the walking trails.
Yep.
And some drainage swales and conveyance of open space parcels, that is not within the purview of the scope of this bond estimate.
Right.
Just as long as you're clear on that.
Correct, and I'm glad that you stated that, Mr. Tansey, so this way that the public knows exactly what we're voting on. That this board really has no control over, whether holding any back funds for clearing trails or anything. It's just not part of this bond.
Right. Right.
So is there a way for us to assure that work will get done? The walking trails?
The board, I think the board has made every indication to hold the applicant and developer accountable.
Yeah.
As well as staff.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. You good with the discussion there, Steve?
I am.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the vote. Mr. Jemian,
Yes,
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Okay, I'll write up a letter and send it over to Treasurer's office and we'll go from there.
Excellent. So moving on to other business, we have minutes from
Can I just,
September 7th. Oh,
Can
of
I-
course.
can I just interject for a moment? Would you like to discuss the open space at all?
Sure.
While
let's
came
do it.
up?
Sure, if you want to.
So Shane, you talked to the Wildlands Trust,
I did.
and I assume they confirmed to you that they have agreed to accept the common open space lot 1.
It wasn't totally completely indicated. I can read off the email that I received from Scott if you'd like.
Yeah, by all means.
Sure. So I reached out to, where's my email? Sorry, I gotta go to the packet. So reached out to, and I'm just gonna read what I can. So I reached out on October 20th. Let me read my email. Hi Scott, I wanted to reach out to see an update on the progress on the work on Wildlands Trust receiving working with the applicant regarding the common open space lot 1 for the above mentioned subdivision, Oldfield. It was a point of discussion at the planning board meeting on the progress of the conveyance to Wildlands Trust. Let me know if you have any questions. Hi Shane, thanks for reaching out to this. This is from Scott McFadden, Land Protection Director from Wildlands Trust. Thanks for reaching out on this. I've been in periodic communication with Lee Castanetti, our primary contact with the developer / applicant regarding the pending transfer of lot 1 in an additional 20 acres of the open space associated with Oldfield Estates subdivision. However, I haven't spoken with him recently. At last check, Mr. Castanetti was working on to prepare a revised plan of land for the Oldfield Estates subdivision open space that removed all drainage basin and associated fixtures from the open space area. My understanding is that once that plan is complete and approved, both open space parcels can be conveyed simultaneously to Wildlands Trust. I will contact Mr. Castanetti for an update and let you know what I learned. Regards, Scott. And that's from October 20th.
And that's correct. So we've been waiting for months for a simple A&R plan from Prime Engineering that simply severs the, understandably, Wildlands Trust has no interest in owning a parcel that has drainage basins on it. So we're simply trying to present to the planning board that A&R plan to sever those 2 drainage parcels that are on lot 1, so that the open space portion of it with no facilities on it can be transferred to Wildlands Trust. So that's the only thing holding up that conveyance to Wildlands Trust.
Well, why is it taking so long?
I have no idea. I'd like to have Prime Engineering come in here and tell you, because I have spent more time prodding them to produce that plan, a simple A&R plan, and I cannot get them to. I'm in the same boat with the parcel across the street on parcel A for the mailbox, reflective of what we had agreed upon and presented to you as a conceptual plan, changing the configuration of the parking area and the parcel for the mailbox center. And I have not been able to get them to produce that plan for me either.
If as soon as you receive a draft plan for that, Lee, as well, if you could send it my way, because I just want to make sure that this A&R plan doesn't affect anything that is regarding the open space special permit as well as the subdivision as well. Just to make sure it's not some sort of minor modification or a modification to a previously approved special permit. So as long as you can send that over, I'll check it over just to make sure it's kosher for an A&R.
I actually do have a conceptual plan, which is what's so bizarre. I've had the conceptual plan for months and not an actual A&R plan on which I can prepare an application and submit a Mylar to you.
Sure thing. I would reject it, of course.
All right. But I'll get the conceptual plan to you.
I appreciate it.
The other issue, I'm sure the board members who have been members throughout this process on a number of occasions, I'm sure, Ray, that you'll recall this, that Pat has consistently indicated that common open space lot 2 that abuts what was formerly Jenny Lee Park, that he wanted us to propose that to be accepted by the town as town-owned open space. And we either go in that direction if the board wants us to attempt to, get the town to agree to do that. Or if not, we'll just convey it to the HOA.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Pat on that one, but unfortunately he's not here. He'd probably be able to give a better response there. But
we can, I guess we can have a continuing conversation as a board.
Yeah.
Regarding that.
Just stuff that will have to be handled going forward, but.
Yes, sure thing.
Okay, all right, well, next to the information Attorney Cassidy that was revealing. So it
Okay.
looks like we have
Thank you.
minutes from, thank you, September 7th, 2022. I would probably personally like to continue those. I don't like doing minutes when we don't have everybody here that was present at the meeting.
It's a good idea.
That's fine. I'm just gonna give you more minutes. Do your homework on these ones and I'll give you some more for the next meeting.
Sounds good. Any board committee liaison reports?
I don't know if you want to do this at this meeting until everybody's here, but if you remember last year, you voted to recommend me as being the liaison to the tree board. That was
Yes.
an ad hoc board. The council has instigated the tree council. It has been approved. There's a 30-day delay before it goes into effect. It will probably, the first meeting of the tree committee will probably be November 30th. But I've been told that since it's a new committee, an official committee, that all liaisons will have to be reappointed. So if you want now or at the next meeting, I'd like to be reappointed to the new tree committee as the liaison between the planning board, which the tree committee requires a planning board member to be a member of the tree committee. Your call.
I'm comfortable either way, Mr. Geller.
So
What do you think?
moved. That's all yours, right?
Gotta take it now before Astrid and Pat come climbing for it.
Yeah, right. Do we have enough here to vote on that? I'm not familiar with
Yeah,
that
you have to
process.
vote on it.
We can place it if, well, do we want to place it on an agenda just to, kind of dot our i's and cross our t's?
Absolutely. Why don't you put it on the next agenda?
There you go.
I'll make you wait 2 weeks, Ray.
Everybody will be here. He's gonna wait 30 days for the board to be put together anyway, so.
Yeah, that's okay.
He wants the official little,
No.
placard.
I just won't be able to sleep at night, but that's okay.
You don't
It's okay.
sleep now.
It's almost 8 o'clock, Ray. It's almost time to sneak.
Suspense is nail biting.
No, believe me, guys, the tree committee is going into effect.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Glad to hear.
Council voted unanimously.
Perfect.
Are we gonna have a ceremony for the first tree to be put in? And can we have I wanna see a plaque dedicated to you, Ray.
By all means.
I'd like to see at least 2-inch caliber too. Don't give me those little twigs.
I was thinking more of a statue, tell the truth.
We can get one.
I don't want your head to get any bigger than it is.
Yeah, like one of those tree sculptures. Be perfect.
All
right. Any planners reports?
Sure. I got one item on our planner's report, coming from an older item. Been kind of going back and forth on the owner and applicant and contractor for Old North Estates. As part of the packet, I provided a memorandum produced by Frank Gallagher, as well as a single-page plan showing utilities or a change in utilities from the initial subdivision. For a couple meetings ago, we voted, the planning board voted that any changes to the utilities were to be considered and deemed a major modification. And the applicant has stated that no, he feels it is a minor modification and the new plans are a minor modification. So I am bringing this back to the board under this planner's report as a means of if the board wants to proceed having this as a major modification or a minor modification, or we place it on the next agenda in order to do so. I have no check from the applicant, just the 2 pages as provided in the packet. But I have indicated several times to this individual that the board voted as a major modification based on the information currently. But they've made an indication that they're going to relocate one of the poles, and that however, Eversource has to relocate the pole from the previous plan that has been approved by the board as a minor modification due to safety issues. So if anyone has any comments, questions, or we want to discuss now or discuss for a later date, whatever the board feels comfortable with.
I think it should be on the next time agenda. not now.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I concur with that.
I agree.
All right, and I can invite Eric again, as well as part of this, so. But other than that, I know Pat's not here, so we don't have an update on CPC. We are working on, I believe at the next meeting, we will be presenting the 2023 schedule, as well as I've been working on the subdivision rules and regs. So I'll be meeting with Jen next week to go over some updates, as well as I'll be providing a draft to the board, hopefully before the next meeting. We're not gonna have a public meeting or a hearing for anything, but with all indications, you'll be able to see that first draft at the next meeting. So don't get too excited. But it will include
Alright.
trees. All right, but it will include some updates to the trees.
Yeah,
Getting
just-
rid of some, adding some, putting some genuses and species as well.
Shane, in all seriousness, Michael has indicated to me that he'd like, one of the things that the tree committee do is to update the shade tree ordinance.
Yeah, because one of the things that we discussed and I've gotten emails for is that, you know, with certain projects, I think we can, I think 1925 Old Plymouth is a good example where we didn't really have an indication of what type of trees that Mr. Rollins would be able to place on a site. We were just going based on our street trees. But we gave the indication that we didn't want the original pair, or that there would be trees to be planted on the site and for a type to be determined by staff. And he did produce a plan that showed pear trees that we weren't totally crazy about, or I myself wasn't too crazy about. So we did get some, I believe, maples over there. So, you know, but to have that codified is so much easier rather than just kind of just going back and forth with emails, kind of going, yeah.
In the future, hopefully, Shane, it'll be more systematic. Seriously, we hope to have an arborist on the tree committee, so.
Oh, no, that'd be wonderful.
Yep. So,
But other than that, unless anyone has anything for me, I sent out some CPGC stuff. So if you want to take some courses, classes, watch some webinars,
yeah, forgot about that.
feel free to take some, or send us the your invoice or anything, or we can sign you up, whichever you prefer. But just let us know.
Thank you.
All right. Well, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I don't know. I think I'm gonna stretch this out another half an hour.
We'll wait for Pat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
gotta wait for Pat. I'll second it.
All righty. Mr. Jemian,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. What happens if somebody votes no on that?
We stay open,
Just indefinitely?
just indefinitely forever, until
Good
Wow.
night.
someone changes their mind.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.